Hello, today we're going to do an ignition adjustment on a Vespa Ciao / Bravo. Because today there's some problem with the new contact sets. They're simply not precise enough. So, to begin with, I mount the engine in my homemade engine stand. Then I find the top point on my piston, and then when I've done that, that's 20.44 millimeters. Then I want my ignition point to be 1.44 millimeters. So I adjust my measuring tool at 21.88. Then I put it back in, and I find that point with the piston. And then first I find the top point, and I make a mark on my engine block and on my flywheel. So this is the top point. And it's very important that you have a very precise ignition on your moped, on any kind of engine. Because if it's too late, the energy goes out your exhaust, and it just gets hot. You just get a hot exhaust, and you use a lot of fuel, and you have no torque on your engine. If you, on the other hand, have it too low, you'll have starting problems, and your cylinder head will get very, very hot, and you could destroy your piston. So now I find my ignition point, and this is the important one, because that's the point where the fuel gets ignited. So I found it there, and I made a mark on my engine block, and I used the same mark as I did for my top point. We really don't need the top point on a Vespa Ciao. I just make a mark for it for reference. Then I make my ignition point. I mark with an F for fire, and then I mark my top point with a T, just so I don't mix it up. Just to say, this is an old engine that's discarded. I have no plans at using right now. It's for a later project. So it's just for making this video. But with this engine, I see that the contact set has been burned. So I have a little file, and I clean it. They're supposed to be changed. They're not for use when they're that burned. But if you have an old moped you want to run again, this is an easy fix. And I see that my contact sets were 0.30 millimeters, which is much too low. The Ciao standard is between 35 and 45. But now you'll see in a moment what the problem is with the new contact sets. See, I put this at 0.40 millimeters, and now I put in a moment I will put a measuring tool on my contact sets. I remove the feeding spoil and the condensator, and now you can see with the yellow marks that the ignition point is much too low at an adjustment at 0.40. See how low it is before it loses. So this has an ignition point at, I would say, around 1.82 millimeters. So I dismount my flywheel and I'll show you where the problem is. See, this little bugger is too high, and that's why we get an early ignition point. So I take a file and I file just a little off, not very much. You can't just go to town, just a little. And then I adjust it at 0.40 again. See now, I hold the screwdriver so you clearly can see. See, now it loses connection at the exact point where I want it to. And now we're going to try and start it up. After we check the spark plug, the standard is it needs a gap of 0.6 millimeters.